The Silent Watchers. The Galactic Council had long dismissed Earth as an insignificant world. To them, humanity was a race that had once shown promise, but had chosen isolation over expansion. Their fleets had not been seen in over 1,000 years. Their ambassadors rarely attended interstellar meetings, and their colonies, if they existed at all, remained hidden from galactic eyes. For the younger species in the galaxy, Earth was a mystery. Some believed it was a dead world. Others thought humanity had never truly mastered space travel. The truth, however, was far more dangerous. The silent watchers of Earth never spoke, never intervened, but they were always watching. High above a distant human colony, the sky burned red as alien warships descended. The Zorvax Dominion, an empire known for its ruthless conquests, had chosen the planet of New Avalon as its next prize. The Zorvax were a reptilian species, towering over humans with armored scales and sharp claws. They had no respect for weak species, and to them, humanity was weak. The invasion was swift. New Avalon's defense systems tried to fight back, but the Zorvax ships were too powerful. The planetary shield collapsed within hours, and the capital city of Velora Prime fell under alien control. Thousands of humans were taken as prisoners. The Zorvax commander, High Warlord Scar, stood on the ruins of the city, watching as his forces rounded up the survivors. Pathetic, he growled, his sharp teeth glinting under the red sky. And to think, the legend spoke of humanity as warriors. Where is their strength now? His second-in-command, Captain Veklar, stepped forward. Should we expect retaliation from Earth? Scar laughed, a deep guttural sound. From Earth? Don't be a fool. Humanity has been silent for centuries. They are nothing more than ghosts. The prisoners, huddled together in fear, heard these words. Among them, Dr. Elias Voss, an old historian, clenched his fists. He knew the stories, the forgotten legends of Earth's ancient fleets, the warships that once roamed the stars. But those were only myths, right? The silent watchers of Earth remained unseen. But they were watching. In the heart of the Sol system, deep beneath the surface of Earth, a hidden facility came to life. A machine that had not activated in a millennium suddenly flickered with power. A red warning light pulsed through the underground chamber. Alert! Unauthorized colony invasion detected. Far beneath the surface, in a chamber filled with dust-covered consoles, an AI awakened from its slumber. Its voice echoed through the darkness. Protocol Omega-9 engaged. Long-dormant assets, preparing for reactivation. The silent watchers of Earth had seen enough. And the galaxy was about to remember why humanity had once ruled the stars. Back on New Avalon, the Zorvax forces tightened their grip. High Warlord Scar had decided to make an example of the human prisoners, forcing them to labor in the mines to extract valuable resources. He believed that by the time Earth decided to respond, it would be too late for them to mount any significant challenge. The alien empire had conquered countless worlds, each one falling with ease before their overwhelming power. The Zorvax thought humanity had been forgotten by the galaxy, nothing more than a lost relic of a bygone age. But beneath the surface of Earth, a different story was unfolding. Deep within the Archean facility, an ancient control room was coming to life. The facility, long abandoned and buried under layers of rock and time, had been dormant for centuries. Yet now, the old machines hummed to life, powered by forgotten technology. The AI, known as Protocol Omega-9, had fully reactivated, scanning for threats and analyzing all available data. The distress signal sent by the Zorvax invasion triggered an old protocol that had not been used in centuries. The system was designed for one purpose: to defend Earth at all costs. A soft mechanical voice filled the room. Threat level: critical. Initiating reactivation of Earth's defense fleet. Across the galaxy, whispers began to stir among the older species who had once encountered humanity. The Zorvax, arrogantly dismissing Earth as a forgotten world, had no idea that their actions were waking an ancient power. In the bustling galactic capital of HFY Station, a meeting of the Galactic Council was underway. The members, each representing different species from various star systems, gathered in a large, shimmering chamber. They discussed matters of trade, diplomacy, and the progress of their respective species. But when the subject of Earth was brought up, the room fell silent. The Zorvacs had reported their conquest of a human colony, but a few of the older members were uneasy. "Do we truly believe humanity is gone?" asked Ambassador Goric, a towering figure from the Tirith Empire. His species had once fought alongside humanity in an ancient war. He knew the power Earth had once wielded. "It is a world of primitives," replied Councillor Tralus, a sleek alien from the Valora Confederacy. "They have not shown any signs of advanced technology for millennia. Why should we fear them?" But Goric wasn't convinced. "There are rumors," he said, his voice heavy with concern. "Whispers of a fleet that once ruled the stars, a fleet lost to time. We cannot underestimate humanity. Even in their silence, they are dangerous." Back on Earth, deep in the Archean facility, the AI continued its work. It had accessed ancient star maps, locating the long-forgotten fleets hidden in the deepest corners of the solar system. As the machines powered up, massive warships, dormant for centuries, began to stir. The ancient vessels, once commanded by humanity's greatest generals, were now reawakening. On the surface of Earth, high-tech observatories detected strange signals emanating from the outer reaches of the solar system. No one could explain it. These signals were ancient, encoded in a language no modern human could decipher. They were the first signs that Earth's ancient defense systems were reactivating. Dr. Elias Voss, the historian who had uncovered the legends of Earth's fleet, stood in his office, gazing at the readings. The ancient records he had studied as a young man now seemed to come alive before his eyes. His mind raced. The fleet was real. In a frantic call to the Earth government, Dr. Voss urgently relayed his findings. "The fleet is waking up. It's happening right now. We have to act fast." The response was swift. The global military was put on high alert. The silent watchers had been roused, and humanity was preparing for war. But it was no longer just about Earth's defense. It was about sending a message to the galaxy. Never forget who humanity truly was. Across the stars, the Zorvacs had no idea what was coming. They were still focused on their conquest of New Avalon, laughing at the thought of Earth's reaction. But the tide was about to turn. In the dark void beyond the outer planets, humanity's fleet slowly began to emerge from its ancient hiding places. Massive ships, forged in the heart of Earth's golden age, once believed to be relics of a forgotten past, were now fully operational. Initiating launch sequence. The AI's voice echoed through the underground chamber. The dormant fleet began to awaken. The ships were colossal, each one equipped with weapons far more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were vessels of immense power, forged in a time when humanity had not only explored the stars, but had also ruled them. As the first human ships left the outer reaches of the solar system, they made their way toward New Avalon. On the way, they encountered Zorvac scouts, ships that had been sent to patrol the area. The scouts were the first to witness the return of Earth's ancient fleet. They were fast, brutal, and heavily armed. But even they couldn't anticipate what would happen next. The Zorvac ships tried to engage the human fleet, but they were no match for the technological superiority of the reawakened warships. The Zorvacs were forced to retreat, sending frantic messages back to High Warlord Scar, who had no idea what was coming his way. Humanity, once believed to be weak, was now showing the galaxy just how wrong they had been. Earth had awakened, and its wrath would be felt across the stars. As Earth's ancient fleet neared the star system where New Avalon was located, the Zorvacs had no idea what awaited them. They were far too busy celebrating their victory over the human colonies to notice the shifting tide in the galaxy. The sight of their own scouts fleeing in fear would have been enough of a warning. But it came too late. The fleet from Earth, once thought to be a myth, had now revealed itself to the galaxy. Massive warships, each one an ancient marvel of human engineering, moved through space with silent precision. Their hulls glistened in the starlight, the old metal shining like new. They were a stark reminder of humanity's once dominant place among the stars. The Zorvacs were in shock. They had conquered countless worlds. Their armies had crushed civilizations beneath their boots. But this was different. The speed and power of the human warships were unlike anything they had encountered. Their technology was so advanced that even their most seasoned warriors had no idea how to counter it. The first Zorvac scout ship that encountered the Earth fleet was obliterated in seconds. The Zorvac ship had tried to send a distress signal, but the message never left its hull. The human fleet's weapons fired in a blinding burst, hitting the ship with such force that it was reduced to space debris in a matter of moments. The human ships moved on, their mission clear. They would not let the Zorvacs conquer any more of humanity's territory. Back in the Zorvacs command center, High Warlord Scar was struggling to understand the situation. He had been informed that Earth's fleet had reawakened, but the reports were inconsistent. Some said it was impossible. After all, how could humans, after being silent for so long, possess such advanced ships? A communication flashed across his desk, sent from a battered scout ship that had barely escaped the onslaught. The humans have returned. Their fleet. It's unstoppable. We must retreat. Scar's rage boiled over. He had dismissed humanity as weak, unworthy of consideration. And now, those same humans were coming for him. And his empire. He slammed his fist on the table, furious with himself for underestimating them. But the Zorvacs were not a species to give up easily. They had conquered many worlds, and they would fight to keep their conquest of Earth. Scar issued orders for a full-scale mobilization, but deep inside, he feared what was coming. The humans were not the same as before. They were not the timid species they had once been. Back on Earth, the situation was moving fast. The president of the Earth Council, Dr. Elena Voss, watched the developments unfold from the command center beneath the surface of the planet. She had long suspected that humanity had the power to reclaim its place in the galaxy, but seeing it in action was still a shock. The fleet had already begun its assault on Zorvac's forces in the outer reaches of the system, but the real battle awaited near New Avalon. This was where the Zorvacs had concentrated their forces, thinking the planet would be an easy target. They had underestimated humanity's resilience and ingenuity. In a secure briefing room, Dr. Voss addressed the military leaders, her face grim but determined. We are no longer just defending Earth. We are sending a message to the galaxy. Humanity will not be ignored. We will not be subjugated. Her words echoed through the room, instilling a sense of unity and purpose. The people of Earth had always been survivors, and now, as they were faced with the threat of destruction, they would show the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. The first major confrontation took place on the outskirts of the New Avalon system. The human fleet emerged from the shadows of the asteroid belt, a silent, terrifying force. Their weapons powered up, and with a single command, the battle began. The Zorvacs, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of Earth's fleet, struggled to organize a counterattack. They sent wave after wave of fighter ships and heavy artillery ships toward the humans, but none of their strategies worked. Each time a Zorvac ship got close, it was destroyed before it could even fire a shot. The human ships were faster, more agile, and their weapons outclassed anything the Zorvacs had. In one horrifying display, a Zorvac's warship was hit by a concentrated blast of plasma and torn apart, its debris scattering across the void like dust. But the Zorvacs didn't retreat. They fought back. With a heavy heart, Garruk turned to the communications officer. Order the fleet to retreat. We will return to the core and regroup. The humans may have won this battle, but the war is far from over. As the order was sent out, the Zorvac's fleet began to pull back, their ships limping away from the battlefield. But as they did, they knew something that made their retreat all the more bitter. They had been forced to flee from a species they had written off as weak. Earth had proven that it was no longer the fragile, isolated planet the Zorvax had once thought it to be. Meanwhile, aboard the flagship of Earth's ancient fleet, Admiral Lena Carter watched as the Zorvax forces retreated into the darkness of space. The victory was undeniable, but it wasn't complete. The Zorvax had been forced to fall back, but the war was far from over. Her fleet was formidable, but the Zorvax were not easily defeated. They would regroup, they would adapt, and they would strike again. "We've won a battle, but the war isn't over," Admiral Carter said, her voice steady but filled with a quiet determination. "We need to pursue them now. We cannot allow them to regroup and come back stronger. If they get the chance to regroup, they could hit back harder than we expect." Her second-in-command, Commander Alex Reeve, nodded in agreement. "They may be retreating now, but they will come back. We should pursue them while they're weak. It's our best chance to eliminate their fleet for good." Admiral Carter considered his words carefully. The pursuit of the Zorvax would not be easy. It would mean following them into the heart of their territory, a place where Earth's fleet could be outnumbered, where they would be fighting on enemy ground. But she knew this was their chance. If they allowed the Zorvax to escape, it could mean disaster for Earth and every other planet the Zorvax had under their control. This was the moment to strike. If they didn't finish it now, the consequences could be dire. "Set course for the Zorvax stronghold," Admiral Carter ordered. "We're not letting them escape. This ends now." As the fleet made their way deeper into Zorvax space, the crew of Earth's flagship braced for what was to come. The enemy was retreating, but they were not yet defeated. The humans had delivered a crushing blow, but there was still much to do. They would need to fight for every inch of space, for every world that the Zorvax had claimed. And yet, despite the challenges ahead, there was a sense of unity among Earth's people. Their fleet was no longer just a force to be reckoned with. It was a symbol of hope, a sign that humanity had not only survived, but was ready to reclaim its place in the stars. Back on Earth, the entire world was watching as the battle unfolded. The people of Earth, who had lived in fear and isolation for so long, were now witnessing a new era in their history. The fear of the Zorvax was gone, replaced by a growing sense of pride. Humanity was fighting back, and they weren't just surviving. They were thriving. The Zorvax, however, were not without their own pride. As their fleet retreated, High Warlord Scar sat in his command center, brooding over the defeat. His fingers hovered over the communication panel, his mind racing with thoughts of how to salvage the situation. He had underestimated humanity. And now, the consequences were clear. They had unleashed a force unlike anything the Zorvax had ever encountered. "We will not let this stand," Scar growled, his voice full of venom. "Earth may have won this battle, but we will make them pay for their arrogance. This war is far from over." He slammed his fist into the armrest of his chair, and as he did, a thought crossed his mind. He had one last weapon, one that could turn the tide of this war. The Zorvax had kept it hidden, kept it in reserve for a moment just like this one. But using it would come at a great cost. The weapon was dangerous, powerful beyond belief, and if it failed, it would mean the end of the Zorvax themselves. Scar knew that the next move would decide everything. Either the Zorvax would reclaim their dominance in the galaxy, or humanity would prove once and for all that they could not be stopped. Back in the heart of Earth's fleet, Admiral Carter's eyes narrowed as her ship entered the Zorvax stronghold. They were entering enemy territory now. No one knew what lay ahead, but the only thing that mattered was this: the humans had come for the Zorvax, and they would not leave until the galaxy was safe once again. The hunt for the Zorvax was far from over. It was just beginning. Earth's fleet had entered the heart of Zorvax territory, the vast expanse of enemy-controlled space stretching out before them. Every ship was on high alert, weapons primed and shields at maximum. The fleet was close now, too close for comfort. The Zorvax knew they were coming, and they were not going to make it easy. Admiral Lena Carter stood at the command deck of her flagship, her gaze fixed on the holographic map before her. The blue lights of the map flickered with a sense of urgency, showing every movement of the enemy fleet. They were outnumbered, but that didn't matter anymore. The Zorvax had underestimated humanity's strength, and now they were going to pay for that mistake. "Commander Reeve," Admiral Carter said, her voice calm but firm. "How far are we from the Zorvax homeworld?" Commander Reeve glanced at the map and tapped a few buttons on his console. "We're approximately 30 minutes out, Admiral. Their stronghold is well defended, but we've already taken down most of their outer defenses. If we continue at this pace, we should be able to strike them directly before they can react." Admiral Carter nodded, though a shadow of doubt passed over her face. They had faced one enemy ship after another, each more powerful than the last, and yet here they were, on the edge of victory. But the Zorvax were no ordinary foe. This was their last stronghold, their final line of defense. And the more they approached, the more the nagging feeling grew. What if they were walking into a trap? "We can't afford to make any mistakes," she muttered under her breath. "We need to be ready for anything." Her mind raced as the Zorvax stronghold loomed ahead. A sudden flash on the map caught her attention. It was a faint blip, just a small disturbance in the surrounding space. But that wasn't what worried her. It was the speed with which it moved. It was too fast for an ordinary ship. "Lieutenant James," she called to her communications officer, "can you identify that disturbance?" James scanned the readings and then turned to Carter with a concerned look. "It's not a ship, Admiral. It's something else. Something much larger." The sense of impending danger was palpable. This wasn't just a routine military operation. It was a battle for survival, and Earth's fleet was about to walk straight into the most perilous part of the war. As they drew closer to the Zorvax stronghold, the faint signal became clearer. It wasn't just a random anomaly. The Zorvax had something new, something that hadn't been detected until now. "We need to move fast," Carter ordered. "Prepare the fleet for battle. No more holding back." On the Zorvax homeworld, High Warlord Scar stood in his command center, staring out at the approaching Earth fleet. The time for retreat had passed. They had no choice now but to fight. His thoughts flickered back to the weapon he had hidden away. The ultimate weapon. The one the Zorvax had developed in secret. It was a power beyond anything the humans had ever seen. It could turn the tide of this war in an instant, but it would come at a price. Using it meant risking everything. If it failed, if it didn't work as planned, it could destroy them all. He clenched his fists. There was no other choice. Earth's fleet had to be wiped out. They could not be allowed to stand in the way of Zorvax supremacy. "Activate the weapon," Scar ordered, his voice cold and resolute. His officers moved swiftly, their hands working in unison to bring the weapon online. The ground trembled beneath their feet as the machine began to hum with power. The weapon was massive, buried deep in the core of the Zorvax homeworld. It was a weapon designed not just to destroy ships, but to annihilate entire fleets. The ground shook violently as a giant energy beam shot into the sky, aimed directly at the oncoming Earth fleet. It was the most powerful weapon the Zorvax had ever created, a force of nature capable of causing utter destruction. And now it was Earth's turn to face the full fury of the Zorvax. Back on Earth's flagship, Admiral Carter stood frozen, her eyes wide as the energy beam shot out from the Zorvax stronghold, cutting through space like a laser. It was unlike anything they had encountered before. The sheer power of it sent shockwaves through the fleet, and the crew could feel the tension in the air. "Shields up," Carter barked. "Brace for impact." Her heart raced as the Earth fleet scrambled to position itself for defense. The beam was too powerful to evade entirely, but the fleet's shields could take a hit if they were prepared in time. The energy beam collided with the fleet's outer shields, and the force of the impact was like nothing they had experienced. The flagship shook violently, and alarms blared across the deck. The entire ship rocked as if it were caught in the grip of a storm. But the shields held. "We're holding," Commander Reeve shouted, his voice filled with relief. "The shields are holding." But Carter wasn't so sure. The energy beam was unlike any attack they had faced before. It was powerful, relentless, and it would only get worse if they didn't act quickly. "Get us closer to the stronghold," Carter ordered. "We need to destroy that weapon before it's too late." Her words were barely out of her mouth before another blast of energy shot out from the Zorvac stronghold. This time, it was aimed directly at the flagship. "We can't avoid it," Lieutenant James screamed, but it was too late. The beam collided with the flagship, sending it reeling backward. The force of the blast cracked the hull, and lights flickered throughout the ship. The crew scrambled to maintain control, but they were on the edge of losing everything. "Admiral, we need to fall back," Commander Reeve shouted. "We can't withstand another hit like that." But Admiral Carter wasn't ready to give up. "Not yet. We're not retreating," she said, her voice fierce. "We've come too far to turn back now." The fight for humanity's survival was just beginning, and the Zorvacs were about to learn the true meaning of their mistake. The flagship trembled under the force of the Zorvac's weapons blast. Sparks flew across the command deck, and red warning lights flashed in every direction. The shields were holding, but just barely. If they took another direct hit, the ship might not survive. Admiral Lena Carter gritted her teeth. This was it. The Zorvacs had unleashed their most powerful weapon, and the only way to win was to take it out before they could fire again. "Status report," she barked, gripping the railing as the ship steadied itself. "Shields at 23% and falling." Lieutenant James shouted, "Hull integrity is compromised on the lower decks." Carter didn't hesitate. "We can't afford to sit here and take another hit. Helm, take us in closer. Prepare all railguns and kinetic bombardment systems." Commander Reeve turned to her in shock. "Admiral, if we get closer and they fire again, then we won't give them a chance." Carter cut him off. "This is our only shot. We either take out that weapon, or we all die here." Reeve hesitated, then nodded. He knew she was right. The fleet adjusted course, engines roaring as they surged forward. The battered human ships formed a tight formation, their weapons locking onto the Zorvac stronghold. As they moved, the enemy's defenses began firing again. Streams of plasma bolts and missile barrages rained down on them. But humanity had come prepared. "Deploy countermeasures," Carter commanded. Small drones launched from the fleet, zigzagging between the ships, disrupting the enemy's targeting systems. Electromagnetic pulses spread through space, confusing the Zorvac's defense systems. The strategy worked. Enemy fire missed its targets, giving Earth's fleet the precious seconds they needed. Then, the Zorvac's weapon began to charge again. A deep, ominous hum filled the battlefield as energy gathered at the core of the planet. The massive cannon embedded in the Zorvac stronghold glowed with a terrifying brightness. If it fired again, it could annihilate half the fleet in one shot. "Time to impact," Carter asked. 30 seconds. James yelled. "We won't make it in time." Carter narrowed her eyes. "We will." She turned to the weapons officer. "Target the stronghold's core. I want all cannons, railguns, and missiles locked onto that weapon. Fire everything we have." "Aye, Admiral." Within seconds, the order was carried out. The fleet unleashed its fury. Railgun slugs, moving at near-light speeds, tore through the void and slammed into the Zorvac stronghold. Kinetic rounds shattered defenses, piercing through layers of armor. Plasma torpedoes exploded on impact, sending shockwaves across the enemy base. The entire battlefield erupted in fire and destruction. But the Zorvac's weapon was still charging. The glow intensified. The hum grew louder. Carter gripped the console. "Damn it. It's still online." Commander Reeve's hands tightened into fists. "We need more firepower." For a brief moment, the bridge fell silent. Then a voice crackled through the comms. An old, familiar voice. "Maybe I can help with that." Carter's eyes widened in disbelief. No, it can't be. But it was. A massive shadow loomed over the battlefield as an ancient ship emerged from the darkness of space. It was one of Earth's lost warships, the Indomitable, a relic from an era when humanity first fought among the stars. The ship had been missing for centuries, presumed destroyed. But now it had returned. Its weapons, old but deadly, powered up with a deep, thunderous roar. The captain's voice came through again. "You didn't think we'd let you have all the fun, did you?" Carter's lips curled into a grin. Fire at will. The Indomitable unleashed a storm of destruction. Giant railguns, larger than any in the fleet, tore through the Zorvak's defenses. Its experimental energy cannons, thought to be lost technology, sliced through the enemy's shields like paper. The Zorvak's homeworld trembled. The superweapon faltered. The glow dimmed. Then, with one final shot, the Indomitable fired a kinetic lance directly at the core of the Zorvak's weapon. A single moment of silence. Then, a catastrophic explosion. The Zorvak stronghold erupted in flames as the superweapon shattered. Fire and debris spewed into space, engulfing what remained of the enemy's defenses. The shockwave sent ripples through the battlefield, knocking ships off course. And then, just like that, the mighty Zorvak stronghold was no more. On the bridge of the flagship, Carter let out a slow breath. The battle was over. They had won. Commander Reeve turned to her, awe in his voice. "We did it." She nodded. "Yes, but it wasn't just us." Her gaze shifted to the Indomitable, still hovering in the distance. Whoever had brought it back, whoever had kept it hidden all these years, they had just saved humanity. And now, there were questions to be answered. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The battlefield was silent. Where once the Zorvak stronghold had loomed, there was now only a field of burning wreckage. The remains of their mighty fleet drifted through the void, lifeless and broken. The superweapon, once the greatest threat to humanity, was now nothing more than scattered debris. And yet Admiral Lena Carter's eyes weren't focused on the destruction. She was staring at the Indomitable. The ancient warship, thought lost for centuries, floated among the stars, its massive hull scared but intact. It had arrived at the perfect moment, unleashing firepower that even modern Earth ships couldn't match. But the question remained, who had brought it back? A crackling voice came through the comms again. "Admiral Carter, this is Captain Elias Voss of the Indomitable." The name sent a shock through the bridge crew. Commander Reeves' mouth fell open. "That's impossible. Elias Voss has been dead for over 200 years. Carter clenched her fists. "Open a secure channel." A moment later, the face of an old man flickered onto the screen. He was rugged, his silver hair cut short, his uniform an outdated design from humanity's first interstellar wars. But his eyes, those sharp, calculating eyes, they were exactly as history described. Carter took a slow breath. "You can't be Elias Voss." The man smirked. "And yet, here I am." The bridge fell into stunned silence. Carter narrowed her eyes. "How?" Voss leaned back in his chair. "A long story. One we don't have time for right now." He gestured toward the burning remains of the Zorvak's fleet. "There are survivors down there, and they won't stay quiet for long." Carter's instincts kicked in. He was right. There was still work to do. She turned to her officers. "Status of our fleet." Lieutenant James checked the readings. Multiple ships heavily damaged, but all still operational. "We can begin rescue and recovery immediately." Carter nodded. "Do it, and scan for any remaining Zorvak's forces. If they're still alive, I want to know about it." As the crew moved into action, Carter turned back to Voss. "You saved us today, but I need answers."